It has been a while since I have made a proper Spicy Monday video. Last week I was in London for the MSP show, but here's the twist. Right next door in the same convention center was the service desk and IT support show or SITS, which is way bigger and much older. 30 years running, focused on enterprise IT, sysadmin, support pros, basically the entire other side of the industry. Walking back and forth between those two events, it was like switching channels between a documentary and a reality show. Holy shit. MSP channel, we need to wake the fuck up. Same industry, same kind of attendees, but the difference in maturity and clarity between the two sides was hard to ignore. On the SITS side, it was structured. Everyone spoke a shared language. Multiple vendors solve the exact same problem, which incidentally is AI, but with clear frameworks and very specific differentiators. You could walk up to any booth on that SITS side and immediately tell what they did, why it mattered, and how they were different from the booth next door that at face value seemed to have the same product. Now let's talk about the MSP show side. It was comparatively chaos. Everything was generalist. The language was vague. We had generalist buzzword stuff everywhere. AI, automation, enablement, outcomes. Booths leaned on flashy displays and swag. Just explaining the product clearly took too long and was only possible at a booth. There was no shared framework, no consistent technology. Vendors were all trying to be everything to everybody. And to take that a step further, and many of you know what I'm talking about already, all the MSP side of the show itself was very organized, but all the vendors, for the most part, all basically seemed to fall in the same three buckets very nebulously of like, what do they even do? Either they're a security product or they're a like VCAO clienty product or they're something in between. But there were a few standouts that of course have very, very specific use cases, implementations, and definitions. But by and large, on that MSP side, it's just a big muddy mess where you have to stop at every booth and ask them what exactly they do that makes them different, versus the other side of the show where you could stand away from the booth, read the signage, and figure out exactly what they did with what tools and for what industry. It was dramatically different. Editor Dean, bring the camera in. Let's talk for a minute. You and me. I will be the first one to admit, as a vendor and a MSP formerly, the vendor space needs to do better here. But I largely think what I observed was more a symptom of typical MSP behavior that vendors on our side of the space are struggling to respond to, more than it is all the vendors got together and decided that they wanted their show to be Mudfest 2025. We did not see this on the other side of the floor, even with vendors that have products that are in the MSP space and the sysadmin space, which should be your evidence right there that MSPs are part of the problem. And that right there is what I call the One MSP Fallacy. This belief that at an MSP, or our personal experience running our MSP, is so unique and so different that common structures, frameworks, or known good practices don't apply to us. And it's this idea that if something worked for me, then it must mean the rest of the industry has done it wrong. And we see that reflected in our vendors, because our vendors are trying to be everything to everybody, because we keep telling them that every single one of us is individual and they need to do that. I do want to make a quick clarification. I've decided as of this year that I'm going to try to stop calling them best practices. I grew up learning them as best practices. Many of you hear them as best practices, and I want to try to stop calling them that. The language implies a certain amount of ego, that there's a perfect answer, one answer, and that everything else is kind of dumb, because what's the opposite of best is worse. And it makes it seem like there's only one way to do things. And of course, we all are smart enough to know there's not one way to do things. So what I've decided to call those instead is known good. I'm going to steal from engineering and call it known good. Practices that have been tested, proven repeatable, and refined across teams and companies, not because they are the best, but because they consistently work. Until you have something measurably better, you start with a known good practice. Here's the dangerous part. When you succeed at your small business, at your MSP, while ignoring the known good, you often end up confusing luck and really willpower for skill. And that becomes problematic because the handful of people who produce real admirable success this way, they start going on tour teaching that to others. And you end up with LinkedIn posts and webinars and loud conference voices telling folks to skip things like documentation or ticket notes don't matter, or just automate the entirety of this part of your business, or just all this other stuff because we never needed that. It's that rush we always see when a new product comes out that has a really great culture where everybody just says, let's just go buy it. It's going to be better. But no one can articulate to you why it's going to be better because they don't fucking know why it's better, because they don't actually know what they're doing to begin with, because they never learned known good practices. They just stumbled into and powered through a bunch of luck. If you're wondering, could I be falling into the one MSP fallacy? Here is how you self-identify. Did your approach succeed once or consistently? Have others repeated your success without you being involved? Are you skipping a known good process, or have you improved on it? Are you teaching from actual experience or just repeating your anecdote loudly? And most importantly, are you mistaking being an exception for being an example? Different is not always better. Skipping structure does not make you edgy. It makes you unreliable. If your way only works when you do it, that's not a process. That is a performance. We've got to grow up as an industry. We need common language, shared frameworks, and repeatable outcomes, because the real flex is building something that works without you and teaching others how to scale without burning it all down. If this hit you a little bit too hard, if you're rushing to the comments, if you want to explain to me why, wait, Dean, what you don't understand what our differentiator is, or the way we achieve success while ignoring a known good practice, good. That means that you're thinking. Let's kill the cult of ignorance and stop pretending that ego is experience. Known good is a better place to start than weaponized ignorance.